Hello and welcome to this Adaptavist conversation. I'm Matt Bailey, a DevOps consultant here at Adaptavist, and today we're doing something slightly different. We've asked AI to predict 5 things it thinks will define DevOps in 2026. And then we're going to pressure test those predictions with some real people who actually ship software and run platforms. The format is simple. I'll read the prediction and then we'll unpack what that means in practice. What's plausible, what's hype, and what you can do now. Shall we do intros first?
Hi, my name is Timothy, and I'm a staff engineer here working in Adaptavist, particularly in the internal developer portal product called Venue.
Hi everyone, my name is Lily. I'm currently engineering lead in Adaptavist, working on the platform team. In the past, I had lots of experience working in software engineering, software architecture, integration teams, etc. So really interested in DevOps and platforms.
Awesome. And I'm Jason. I'm the global DevOps practice lead here at Adaptavist, leading overall DevOps strategy for our consulting business.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. So let's get straight into our first prediction that ChatGPT has spat out for us around what DevOps is going to look like in 2026. So number 1 is platform engineering becomes the default operating model. IDPs everywhere. Let's start with Jason on this one.
Yeah, so it's a really interesting one for this. I think certainly the ability for teams to be able to evolve very quickly has, we've seen that over the last 4 or 5 years where we've been moving towards a platform engineering model, and that's really what's been catching on. I think certainly with the prevalence of AI, being able to standardize your baseline and have a consistent developer landscape across your entire organization is becoming even more valuable. And I think just as a part of that, you don't want to have to rewrite your agents.md files or your Claude definitions or any of that sort of landscape for every single individual product. And I think platform engineering, the principles that are behind that are really going to help drive, all right, we have a standardized set of rules, we use that across our entire company. And then similarly, we have the same thing for our CI/CD pipelines, our deployment practices, all of our compliance, things like that. I think that's really where we're going to be going. And I certainly agree with that prediction with where the industry is heading. Lily, what are you seeing?
Yeah, so I completely agree with that. The only thing that I would challenge maybe, so IDP stand for internal developer portals. Will we need portals, or will we just expose all of these functionalities through MCPs and let our agents, spin new projects, create infrastructure just from our own IDs as we are working? What do you think, Tim?
So I guess internal developer, is it both internal developer portals and also internal developer platforms? Because IDP stands in the industry, it does stand for these 2 things. So a portal is just one piece of the overarching platform, where the platform includes security, includes the deployable pieces, another IDP that cover Okta and stuff like that. So portals certainly has been picked up a lot in the industry, right? In Backstage, Port, then I do agree that platform engineering is the way forward. It helps engineers, or it helps not only engineers but the overall organization understand what the infrastructure is, what the whole ecosystem of what an organization is using throughout the tools that they're using throughout the organization.
Yeah, it's an interesting distinction, portal versus platform, and how we'll see that with AI and the ability to have MCP servers and have agents do everything for us. So we'll keep an eye on that one for sure. Any other comments on IDPs before we move on?
I think I agree with Tim. I think it is really cool to have a short acronym like that because it can evolve, and that's probably what we're going to see.
Yes, as with most acronyms in our area, they can be interpreted different ways.
Yeah.
Right. Let's move on to our second prediction from AI. AI assisted delivery becomes normal, but it mostly amplifies what you already are. So this is the idea that we will work with AI to develop and produce software. Lily, do you want to go first there?
Yeah, sure. So my question to this is isn't this already a reality? We're at the beginning of 2026, but all of the engineering teams that I work with use some form of AI to help them write the code, write the test, understand requirements, break things down. I think almost even now, the software engineering role is evolving to some mix between the product owner and a software architect, where you're just guiding the AI to produce the results that you want. What do you guys think?
I'd be very curious. The way that I read that question is that it's basically everything up until the actual, all right, I'm ready to ship the code somewhere. And I would certainly agree with you that up until this point, we're basically there. But I think the thing that makes us delivery focused, DevOps focused, is everything after that point. I'm curious to maybe dig in further, though, we might not have time to do that. Does that mean that we move away from the current paradigm where we have a standardized pipeline where, okay, yeah, we take the container image, we put it into Pardot, and we go through that? I'm curious if maybe the hint that is under this is that standardized means might drift away from what the current reality is. And maybe it means we have this container image and the MCP server figures out how to push that to production in whatever way, shape, or form that is. So that might just be.
So I was going to say the AI assisted delivery prediction is true. We spent a lot of 2023, 2024 building the foundations of generative AI, from RAG to MCPs, and then to the tail end of the second half to the maybe the third quarter or the fourth quarter of 2024, moving into the agentic AI piece, right? And once we've reached that threshold, it's now going to be about how we are going to use generative AI to deliver the different pieces of DevOps, because DevOps is supposed to be about the full CI/CD lifecycle, from development to build to test to release and then observability and then back all the way. So even in my team at the moment, because I help cover both software engineering and DevOps engineering, we have different pieces of AI, generative AI, helping us to deliver software, to deliver the development pieces, like rules around how AI should behave when developing both software for the product and software and code for infrastructure.
This is something, an analogy I've used before, and what I foresee us doing is becoming AI shepherds, with our hooks, and just making sure we're leading AI down the right path, watch it as it goes, and make sure it's doing things correctly and within given guardrails that we provide. So it's certainly one it's one that's already taking place. It's not so much of a prediction as an observation. I think, as you said, I think there are a lot of engineers out there that are kind of closet AI users who secretly use AI, and I think that there's a bit of a stigma around using AI to assist with writing code in the IDE, using agents and that kind of thing. But I think it's becoming more accepted as we understand the guardrails we need to put in place.
Right.
But yeah.
And just to follow up on that stigma piece, right? We should encourage the people that we work with, we should encourage them that there should be no more stigma. It's about encouraging them to use, to explore, to share, so that the learnings will not only be individual learnings, but then transferable towards team learnings for production, so that it improves the business value.
Yeah, 100% agree. Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. That's our first 2 predictions down. Let's move on to number 3. So the third prediction from ChatGPT is CI/CD observability becomes standard practice, not a niche. So this is the idea that we properly observe and monitor our CI/CD pipelines as we would an application and the applications that those very CI/CD pipelines build. I think this is incredibly interesting. Tim, do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. CI/CD observability becomes a standard, not a practice. I certainly has put in some effort into making sure that our team understands that if there is a certain deviation between what our CI/CD metrics have been producing last month versus this month, how much does our CI/CD cost last month versus this month? How much does it cost 6 months ago versus this 6 months ago? That is certainly something that I've shown and tried to empower our DevOps engineers and our software engineers with those kind of data, because those deviations are the initial places that we should poke about what processes that have changed processes or even technologies that have changed over the last period of time. Did they use Jest? Did they use to change things up? Did they use a new library? Did they use a new method of building? Did they introduce a new image that's building slower? So that is mine. I do agree that observability is becoming a more important piece.
Jason, Lily?
Sorry, I just wanted to say that I would really like this to become truth because, or become the reality, because I think CI/CD is kind of a second-class citizen when you get to kind of the actual code, the production code, and I think we could learn a lot from it. And if AI helps us free up some time, then we might put this in action and actually work a bit more on that.
This is actually one of the interesting bits that I think GitLab's really far ahead of the rest of the pack in, where they have the ability to have pipelines automatically debug themselves when they're going through the overall process. I haven't seen that from many of the other players that are in that coupled space between code generation and actual execution of builds, and I think that certainly is going in the right direction. I don't want to say necessarily a counterpoint, but something that's maybe in addition to what we currently think of as CI/CD pipelines will be, I think will be going in the direction of more directly coupling things like dev containers or your actual development environments and the existing CI/CD practices, because what I've realized is that most of the models right now don't tend to keep these two things either in sync, or their development practices are so far disjointed from the actual CI/CD processes, and those really need to be much more closely coupled, because why would you want to spend time debugging something that in theory works in dev? Then you'll start having models that are commenting out tests, which I have before. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I hope that this, and I agree with all of the sentiment there, I think, especially around CI/CD pipelines being second-class citizens and an afterthought of this is a thing that we have to do to get our software shipped. When in reality, when handled properly, it makes sure that the quality of your code is up to snuff when it gets to production. And I think monitoring that in a way that you monitor an application, looking at the various steps of your pipeline and the speed at which they run, and watching those trends and making sure that you act on those is incredibly important. And the time that you would save from improving performance on the CI/CD pipeline compounds to the amount of engineers that you're using it. So excellent. All right, let's have a look. Any more on CI/CD, or we'll move on to our fourth prediction? No,
maybe excellent. I could just go one One more thing. To try.
Yeah.
One more thing to try. Maybe another metric that doesn't particularly involve the engineers in a sense, or the engineers who develop the infrastructure, is that, for example, if we use Carpenter to build Carpenter to deliver our infrastructure, right? Where certain Kubernetes nodes come and go. Maybe Carpenter delivers a smaller node, a bigger node. So that is something that we can also count as, hey, it's not our fault, right? It is it is the service providers, something that we may not be able to take into account, or rather something that we have to take into account. Yeah.
Absolutely right. These are some of my favorite predictions, the last two. So let's get straight on to this. On-call becomes a supervised AI agent. Lily, what do you think about that one?
I think we're definitely going in that direction. When you think about all the AI assisted development, so you're just like one step further with providing the right context, the right guardrails, and kind of building that confidence within the platform teams, within our humans, kind of employees, to kind of give that confidence to AI agents. I think we as human really like to kind of have things automated and self-healing. So if you think about Kubernetes, one of the main selling points of Kubernetes is self-healing stuff. So having AI agents that would kind of automate all of that and abstract that away from us, I think everyone would benefit. So I think it is definitely something where we are moving to, and I hope we will get there by the end of 2026. If not, we will at least get to the AI assisted way where the human does the final. Yes, I agree. Go ahead.
Can I just ask by raised hands, how many of you have been woken up by the automated PagerDuty voice in the past?
Not yet.
I have, too many times. So I am all for AI picking up the slack there. Jason, do you have any thoughts on that?
I certainly agree with it, and I think this. I gave a really interesting talk to a set of developers for one of our clients late last year, and one of the big things that I was sort of trying to help them juggle was that they have certainly embraced AI. They don't want it to touch production, and what are the right ways to add in guardrails here? And I think a couple of the key takeaways were, one, giving it the various toolbox, or like giving it the tool chest to do the most common things that you would basically, if someone was copy and pasting some scripts or whatnot, you would give it the ability to do those things, to then do low-level triage, and then similarly give them the tools to attempt to remediate those individual things. So, seeing if the disk is full, allow it to run that command wherever it wants. Things along those lines. So I think that's one of the big ways that we can help our customer is really showing them, okay, this is safe to do, and then going from there. I think the other part is obviously, again, embracing platform engineering, making sure that you are using tools and technologies that enable you to have either self-healing infrastructure or be able to interact with your code in a controlled manner. Certainly then alleviates a lot of the, I don't want some AI script generating a bunch of bash and then just trying to like brute force its way into production and fix itself. We don't want that. We do, all right, let's scale everything down to 0 and then try and restart the service that way. That's a safe way of trying to do things. So those are the two big sets of guardrails that at least I've seen with our customers, and that's been adopted very well in being able to deal with some of the concerns that don't give AI access to production.
We could be talking about that one for hours.
Sure.
Tim, do you want to give us your take on on-call becoming a supervised AI agent?
Yes, I think it's not a prediction, but it's an observation now. I'm going to shout out one of our partners, Harness. I've actually seen a demo of AI behaving in an on-call environment. When Harness receives an incident, the AI agent immediately spins up a Zoom meeting, and that agent has the ability to read the transcription of the conversation that's actually happening in the Zoom meeting. It then feeds the transcription into its context window, and Harness being a full CI/CD end-to-end platform, it has the context to read not only the builds, the codes, the release, everything. So I think it's more of a observation than a prediction, and I hope a lot of the other CI/CD providers out there would improve in that area too, and see a lot of the same concepts being adopted across different CI/CD providers. Yeah.
I think Harness is in a bit of a unique situation there, where their platform is very streamlined towards the full deployment process. Right, it covers all the angles. I'm not sure how much I would trust my production infrastructure to voice to text from Zoom. I've seen how that works, and all it takes is the slightest bit of an accent, and it throws it off. But maybe I'm wrong. Yep. Maybe it's able to interpret errors from the voice to text. All right, thank you very much, everyone, on that prediction. And any other input on there before we move on? No? Excellent. So our final prediction from AI: no human SSH expands into no humans making production changes, even for incidents. It added that caveat at the end there, even for incidents, because it knows us. So, Jason, why don't you take the lead on this one?
I am very curious to see where that goes. I don't think that's a this year prediction. I think we might be going in that general direction, but I'm going to have to disagree. I think we're still a ways away from even having that. And I think the novel ways that things break, generally speaking, is still very prevalent across the industry. And I think there might be certain places where that may be able to go towards, but I think it's a little bit early. Call it on that one. That's my take.
Yeah. And what we don't get with this prediction is what it is replaced with, right? So,
right. And I think that certainly explains why I don't think it's a this year problem.
Yeah. So it's a prediction without any evidence. Lily, what do you think?
Yeah, I think when I read that, initially I thought like AI will do everything in production instead of humans. But then I reread it and I thought, wow, maybe it just means stricter control, no ClickOps. So, everything going through CI/CD, everything doing infrastructure as code and things like that. So that is a bit more possible if we make that more efficient. So you still do investigation in production, figure out what was the root cause, and then fix it using the proper channels.
Tim, what do you think?
I do not agree with that prediction. So a very good example is, what if a token expires? That requires a human touch to rotate the token, but then of course there are solutions to rotate tokens. So I think I do agree with Jason and Lily that we are still a ways off to allow AI that very sensitive, that very last bastion of sensitivity when it comes to API tokens and secrets. So, yeah.
I think it's unanimous. I have to agree with all of you on this, that this doesn't seem like a this year thing, if ever a thing. In fact, I've been looking at kind of how drift detection and drift remediation is handled currently, and I think there are some tools out there now which are actually starting to embrace things like ClickOps, right? So just there's some drift here, let's bring that into code, as opposed to that's different from our code, let's bring that back in line. So I think there's some interesting stuff going to be happening around drift detection. This prediction seems a bit far-fetched today. Right. Any final thoughts No,
I'm looking
excellent.
forward to December
Right.
to see what happens.
Yes, yeah, I'll be very impressed if all of these predictions are true this time next year. I'm looking forward to seeing how they go. Obviously, I think we've probably identified that at least 2 of these are already happening. They're observations, and maybe that's because of the ChatGPT model I used was slightly older, and it thought we were further in the past than we are, and it may have successfully predicted something that is already happening. I think we'll leave the predictions there, and we'll just sum up what we've had. So, a lot of talk of AI, as to be expected. I think AI is the buzzword. We're at the height of the AI bubble at the moment. It's always going to be how AI can help us, how we can keep AI reined in. I like the touch about the observability and the CI/CD. That's probably my favorite of the predictions, although maybe not the most exciting. I just love the idea that people are going to focus more on observing and really managing their CI/CD pipeline as if they were products themselves. On call, if you're an SRE out there and you're like me and you don't like being woken up by PagerDuty, maybe by the end of this year, AI will be answering that phone, or there won't be a phone and just AI will deal with it. That would be amazing. But for now, we will be keeping our production access for those incidents, for those rotation of keys. We'll be keeping the keys to the kingdom, break glass in case of emergency. But maybe next year's predictions will be a bit different. Thank you very much, Lily, Tim, Jason, for participating and discussing these quite reasonable questions from AI. I think quite reasonable predictions. We are each going to make our own predictions in a similar fashion to how AI has here, and we will put those in a blog post. So do keep an eye out for our 2026 predictions blog. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you all.